Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Inshallah, now we're going to talk about postulates and theorems that apply only to parallel lines. So now our discussion excludes non-parallel lines, and we're going to talk about postulates and theorems that relate to parallel lines. Now notice astutely that I said postulates and then I said theorems. Okay, there are a bunch of theorems and there is one postulate. Okay, now so let's first of all reveal these lines to be parallel. So these two lines are parallel. Now I've been using these two arrows, so I'm going to use something different. I'm just going to use this one here like that. Okay, so now those lines are parallel. Okay, and let's just call them L and M, and let's call this one line K. Okay. And I'm using different alphabets here, and just to keep some variety so you can get used to it. So, and let's create these angles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So as you recall, when they have two lines there and they're transversal, these 8 angles are created. And we're going to learn the most important of these angles first, and these are the corresponding angles. So the first thing we're going to learn is actually what's called a corresponding angle postulate. Okay, this is a corresponding angle postulate. Okay, which means that we ain't going to prove it, basically. Okay, oopsies. All right, so now all of these statements, they're going to start out the same. Okay, they're going to start out the same. Excuse me. Okay, so they all have they are all stated as a conditional statement. Okay, and as if and then, and they all start out the same. That means the hypothesis is going to be the same. Okay, so it's going to say if two lines, sorry, not any lines. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, okay, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, comma, then, okay, so now we have to understand. The emphasis is that they have to be parallel lines, okay. So if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then, okay, then the corresponding angles are congruent. C-O-N, not congruent, congruent. Okay, that is our postulate. So this is the corresponding angle postulate. Okay, so the postulate states that if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, so here we have two parallel lines, they're cut by a transversal K, then these two angles, angle 2 and angle 6, are going to be congruent. You can label them like this. Okay, so that also means angle 3 is congruent to angle 7 because they're corresponding angles too. Okay, angle 5 is congruent to angle 1, they're corresponding angles too, and angle 4 is congruent to angle 8 because they're corresponding angles too. So if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, this is the all-important corresponding angle postulate. Okay, this is the bedrock, it's the foundation of the rest of the theorems that we're going to talk about. Okay, so this is a postulate, an axiom, therefore we can't prove it. Certainly it's beyond my capability, but this is the corresponding angle postulate. Okay, so if two angles are cut by a transversal, now look at this, so this is our first one that we're going to learn. Now the second we're going to learn is this one. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the alternate interior angles, what do you think, are congruent. Ta-da. Then these two are congruent. Alternate interior angles are congruent. Okay, and this is called alternate interior angle theorem. You're going to prove this, inshallah. Theorem. Okay, and thirdly, the third one starts the same. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the alternate exterior angles, what do you think, are congruent. And these alternate exterior angles are congruent. That's called alternate exterior angle theorem. Okay, and there's one last one. Okay, buckle up. Okay, ready? The last one says, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then, okay, then the consecutive, consecutive interior angles are, what do you think? Okay, supplementary. Okay, that's intuitive. So they don't do consecutive interior, for example, 3 and 5. Do they look congruent to 4 and 6? Do they look congruent to? Not to me. One looks obtuse, the other one looks acute. The consecutive interior angles are supplementary. See? Okay, all of them are. The rest of them are congruent. Okay, now look. I hope you appreciate that here I combined 3 theorems in one, right? The 3 separate theorems so you can remember them easily. They all start the same. The hypothesis is the same. The hypothesis is that if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal. Okay, so all together we have 4 things to remember. Okay, now this last one, the consecutive interior angle theorem. Okay, so now we have these 4 things that we have learned. Okay, we've learned that corresponding angle postulate, we have learned alternate interior angle theorem, alternate exterior angle theorem, and corresponding interior angle theorem. Okay, now I'm going to go over these one more time, inshallah. Okay, now, look, they all start off as if, then. Okay, and there are 4 of them. Like this. And they all say, if 2 parallel lines are cut by what? What are they going to be cut by? You know, a square? No, but cut by a transversal. If 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, okay, that's the hypothesis. If 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then we're going to have 4 things, right? Then these 2 angles, 2 and 6, then the corresponding angles are congruent. That's a postulate. That's called the corresponding angle postulate. So if 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the corresponding angles are congruent. It's postulate. And the second thing is, if 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the alternate interior angles are congruent. That's the alternate interior angle theorem. And the third one is, if 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the alternate exterior angles are congruent. And finally, the last one, if 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the corresponding angles are supplementary. So those are the four new things that we learned. The corresponding angle postulate, and the rest of them are theorems. Inshallah, next time we shall elaborate on this and prove some of these. Until then, as-salatu was-salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Assalamu alaikum.